It's Gary Parrish. It's Monday, November 8th, 2021. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. And as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, we are now on YouTube. What's up, YouTube? Deadleg, wave to YouTube. Say hello to YouTube.
Hello, YouTube. I don't know if I'm saying specifically hello to YouTube or the viewers who have chimed in and started watching, but it's the start of a new era here. So yes, if you happen to be listening to this very episode on the podcast version, just be used to the fact that we're going to be kind of driving down two different lanes of highway here, and there will be a visual component to this. But hey, listen, huge day. Hello, we are the first college basketball podcast to go to video, right? Got to be just us.
It's amazing. I don't know why nobody else had gone to this earlier. Seems like we're always ahead of the curve, you know?
Trailblazing. Listen, don't hate us because we're first. That's all I got to say. It's wonderful to see you. And now everyone gets to see us, gets to see your beautiful backdrop. Although if you've watched CBS Sports HQ, you're familiar with GPs. Mine is different because I'm on the other side of my office. So I've got the drum set behind me, the guitars right here, some music posters behind. This is a little peek into our homes, and let's just hope that our children don't break into our offices, as we are now recording live and living dangerously.
Yeah, I just had to have that talk with my family. We had a family meeting downstairs. I said, listen, I have to be on camera, and there is no stopping once we start. We used to could stop, and we did stop all the time. You would get very frustrated with me needing to stop or wanting to stop. I said, listen, if you guys run upstairs and start acting crazy, you're just going to be crazy on video. We can't stop. So please stay downstairs until I come downstairs and tell you it's okay to come upstairs. But given that my kids don't listen to anything I say, good luck.
Over under 4.5 podcasts at home, because you'll be on the road for the two shows later this week. Over under 4.5 podcasts before one of your children tries to walk in as we record.
Oh, that's happening, because the other problem with this studio, this beautiful studio that we had built, my stuff is not in like an office or a bedroom, or we built a studio in my home. At the same time we built that studio, we built a playroom in our home, and these two things are right next to each other. So there's going to be a day where people wander out of the playroom, and it might not be my kids. It could be somebody else's kids, and they walk right in. But we'll deal with that as it happens and try to have a good time with it. I'm just happy to be on video in something other than a coat and a tie. I feel like hoodies. I thought real hard about I know it doesn't look like I thought real hard about what I was going to wear, but I did put some thought into it. I said, you know what? It's hoodie season. I think I'll just go hoodies. I got every color.
Well, listen, if you want to change it up, because I actually thought you're the reverse Steve Jobs. Okay, a couple things here before we are going to talk plenty of Champions Classic, but let's just lean into the video aspect. First of all, GP's the anti-Steve Jobs, and I don't mean like he hates technology or never uses a phone. That's exactly no. He always wears white T-shirts. Jobs was like black T-shirt every time, everywhere. Normally when we podcast, he'd be rocking that white T-shirt. So he kind of throws me for a little bit of loop with the hoodie action there. And also heard from plenty of people when we announced we were going to video. I had forgotten that we talked about this plenty, and this is certainly before Nada's time, Kanata Edwards. We'll give him a shout and time to chirp, I think, before this episode's done. Thrilled to have a producer on board. But he used to do this in the dark. Now, he hasn't done it since he had the studio, but I had a few people be like, GP's days of going in the dark are over. And they are, which is fortunate yet somewhat unfortunate, because honestly, there have been many a podcast in the past where we would start off season, maybe on a Wednesday randomly at 11:30 in the morning, East Coast time. My man is sitting in the room like a serial killer, sitting in the dark, ready to start podcasting. There's no doing that anymore. He's even more beautifully lit than I am with that wonderful white backdrop with the shelves there. So this is the Parrish you're going to have to get. And that vision, that whole scene that you had going in Dexter's Kill Room, that's just going to have to stay between you and me forever.
I do my radio show every day in the dark, so much so that the cleaning crew will often walk in the studio while I'm in studio, because they can't see that I'm in there. They should know by now that I'm in there, but it looks like it's a completely pitch black, dark studio. I'd like to be in the dark. I know that's weird, and I recognize that a therapist somewhere could probably figure out exactly why I'm more comfortable in the dark than in the light, but I am undeniably more comfortable in the dark than the light.
So we've got this covered now. You are now comfortable and able to adapt on the fly with your own children walking into the room while you're recording, other people's children walking into the room while you're recording, and janitors and cleaning people walking into the room while you're live on the radio, sitting there in the dark. Just wanted to make sure we all had that.
They actually startle me because I sit with my back to the door and I can sort of feel somebody there. I get startled every time they do it, but I get over it pretty quickly. But it does happen because I'm sitting there in the dark like a maniac.
I love this idea that you're in the middle of like some fire Ja Morant take, and suddenly you almost have a heart attack because someone walks into the studio.
It's happened multiple times. Multiple times. Everything about it's complicated. All right, let's get to basketball. So again, it's Monday, and according to my buddy John Rothstein's Twitter feed, that means we are now just one day away from the start of the 2021-22 college basketball season. Things get underway Tuesday, I believe it, at 3:00 Eastern. It'll be Manhattan, you ready for this, versus Manhattanville. Manhattan versus Manhattanville in a non-league battle designed to settle once and for all who is the king of New York. Trivia time, dead leg. Where is Manhattanville College located?
I'm going 0 for 1 right off the bat as we do this on video. Side note, forgot to plug this at the start like we said we would do before we started recording. Subscribe to the show on YouTube. You're going to go to the pod description of this episode on however you're listening to it. You'll tap in, automatically subscribe to Eye on College Basketball on YouTube. We're off to a phenomenal start here. Where is Manhattanville located? I got to believe, I'm going to say Westchester County, even though that's 50 minutes from where I live. Complete guess, New York State, north of the Bronx.
I feel like you were cheating while you were promoting YouTube.
Incorrect. Am I on it? Did I get it?
Yes, it's in Purchase, New York, in Westchester County, about 5 miles from the White Plains Airport.
I should actually know that then. Shouts to a couple friends I've had who've worked at SUNY Purchase, and I've flown out of that airport plenty of times. I just don't know that. Maybe subconsciously I know. Let's go.
I hate that airport so much.
Why?
We don't
really need to careen this podcast, but that is is it packed frequently? Yes. You're taking that airport over JFK and LaGuardia every single time and twice on Sunday.
In theory, all things being equal, perhaps. Quick story. I promise you I'll give you the quick version.
Also, he's about to say this as a non-Connecticut resident. Anyone listening who's also in Connecticut knows you take HPN every single time. Go ahead.
My first year of doing television consistently for CBS Sports Network, where I had a normal schedule, fly every Monday into New York, fly back home every Thursday. My first year, we had a travel coordinator, and I won't mention her name because she's a sweetheart of a woman. And this story might not reflect perfectly. But she really is a sweetheart. So she's like, okay, so it looks like you're flying in every Monday, flying home every Thursday. Do you have any preferences? Now, listen, I'm just a public school kid from Mississippi, and now they're going to be flying me back to New York to talk on national television. I'm like, I'm not making any demands. I'm not trying to, I'm going to be the most agreeable CBS Sports Network employee that exists. I said, hey, whatever's easiest, whatever's cheapest on your end, it's cool with me. I just want to come up on late Monday, as late as possible, so I can do radio on Monday, and I need to be back, by mid-afternoon on Thursday so that I can do radio. So when they book these flights, they book them all at the same time for the entire season. And so I get my itinerary first, and I said, and if it's okay, I want it to be Delta, because Delta does fly out of Memphis a lot. So I get my itinerary, and it is Memphis to Atlanta, Atlanta to White Plains, and then coming home, it's White Plains to Atlanta, Atlanta to Memphis. Now, my White Plains flight left at 6 a.m. every Thursday, 6 a.m. every Thursday morning. They send a car for you to pick you up at 4 a.m. at the hotel. They give 2 hours wiggle room.
That's so brutal. They send a car for you and everything, man. I'm sorry.
Listen, this is going to get bad. So we don't get out of studio till 1:30 or 2 in the morning. So I get out of studio at 1:30, 2 in the morning on Wednesday night, and I would go back to the hotel, change, take a shower, change, pack my bag. Car's going to be here in 30 minutes. No sleep. I ride to White Plains. For a 6 o'clock flight. I get there probably 4:45. The airport's not even open yet. I'm standing outside. I'm standing outside the airport every Thursday morning. I would then fly to Atlanta, fly to Memphis, do a radio show on average somewhere between an hour and 2 hours of sleep every Thursday. Keep in mind, I got young children, family. I get home on Thursday night. I ain't seen them since Monday morning. I've slept 90 minutes. I'm about to die. So I can't come home and do anything. I got to crash out. Miserable. But I was never going to speak up because I was like, I'm not rocking the boat, man. If this is what I got to do to have this opportunity, this is what I'm going to do. Did the whole season. Almost died. Fast forward to the next season. We've got a new travel coordinator. Reaches out to me. Says the same thing. Hey, we're just trying to get an idea what you want for flights. And this time I'm like, okay, I'm gonna speak up a little bit. I said, if there's anything that is within the cost that gets me, to New York on Monday night, but then gets me back home on Thursday. If I have to go to Atlanta, that's fine. If there's a way around that, that'd be great. But like whatever's best. I get my itinerary. Memphis direct to LaGuardia. LaGuardia direct to Memphis. The whole season. I'm thrilled. I called my travel coordinator. I said, hey, I just wanted to let you know I really appreciate what you did. That's going to change my life. And he was like, what do you mean change your life? And I said, well, like all last season, I was going to White Plains at 4 a.m. on Thursday. And he was like, why were you flying out of White Plains? I was like, that's just what they booked. He's like, dude, why didn't you say anything? That is outrageous that you were going to the airport at 4 a.m. after working in studio at 2 a.m. and going White Plains to Atlanta. Like, we could do this, no problem. I said, I didn't want to speak up. I didn't want to rock the boat. And so that became a story among CBS Sports. I would get calls from people who worked there, and they'd be like, hey, we just wanted to apologize for all of last season sending you to White Plains at 4 a.m. I did a whole season that if I'm never in that airport again, I'll be thrilled.
I hear you. That being said, driving from in the Northeast Corridor to get to JFK or LaGuardia is often a hassle. So anyway, Manhattan versus Manhattanville.
You ready for this?
Off the season.
It does. It's a battle. It's a battle of New York. So we've established Manhattanville College is not in Manhattan.
Nope, but it's a ville.
Do you know where Manhattan College is?
Yeah, Manhattan College, I think technically is in the Bronx. Am I correct?
How is Manhattan? It is. That was not a trivia time, by the way. But how is Manhattan College and Manhattanville College, neither one of them in Manhattan?
You got me, man.
Makes no sense. Near my house, there used to be this place called Cowboy Corner. Wasn't on a corner.
Did it have Cowboys?
They had cowboy boots and stuff like that. So I guess by extension.
So Manhattan College is a college. It's just not in Manhattan like Cowboy Corner was not on a corner, but it had Cowboys.
Exactly like Cowboy Corner. Cowboy Corner was not on a corner. Never made any sense to me. So we got that one tipping off at 3 o'clock. And then we've got Alcorn State, Washington State also tipping off at 3 o'clock. But the first day of the season, obviously going to be dominated by what's happening. Ready for this? In Manhattan at Madison Square Garden. It's a doubleheader. They call it the Champions Classic. 7 o'clock Eastern, number 3 Kansas versus Michigan State. 9:30 Eastern, number 9 Duke versus number 10 Kentucky. So it's a doubleheader, 4 Hall of Fame coaches, perhaps 5 or 6 future first-round NBA draft picks, 3 top 10 teams. Obviously, with all due respect to Kansas and Michigan State, one game is way bigger than the other for multiple reasons. And we're going to get to that one. But I do want to talk about these games in the order that they're going to be played. So let's start with Kansas, Michigan State. The Jayhawks are ranked third in the AP poll, third to coaches poll. They're third at KenPom, consistent across the board. Spartans unranked in both polls, just barely. Although I have them ranked in the top 25 and 1. They are 22nd at KenPom. KU is listed, the number's out. KU is listed as a 4.5-point favorite. Deadleg, what are you most interested in looking forward to when it comes to this Kansas-Michigan State matchup?
Yeah, I understand why Duke Kentucky is getting tons more shine. That's understandable. But I'm plenty intrigued by this one as well because Michigan State and Kansas, what's the big broad theme of the night, the thread between all these teams, Kansas, worst season, KenPom-wise, ever under Bill Self. Michigan State, likewise, under Izzo. And then, obviously, Duke had its worst season in 25 years. Kentucky had one of its worst seasons in the history of the program, going back almost 90 years. So all 4 programs actually weirdly have something to prove heading into Tuesday night because they're coming off of subpar seasons for what their program standards are. So with that in mind, with Michigan State, I kind of wanted to see who's going to be the guy here, right? Because, as I understand it, it's been freshman Max Christie, who's been the team's best player over the past month in practice. Is he going to wind up being the most important player on the floor? Will it be a guy like Tyson Walker, Northeastern transfer? will he be able in the first game? Like, is he going to be guarded by the likes of Ochai Agbaji, who I think will be the best defender on the floor there? And will he be able to handle that? We've talked plenty before. GP referenced it on a couple pods ago about traditionally, if you transfer up, and we're talking mid-major to true high major, and we're talking a top 25 level program, it's not that common that you can. In fact, it's rare that you can keep your statistics at about the level they were when you're playing that level below. I don't think anyone expects Tyson Walker to be a 19-7-4 guy or anything like that, but can he be a big-time impact player there? I don't know. Michigan State is coming off of its worst defensive season ever under Tom Izzo. Allowed 71.1 points per game last season. That's the most on a per-game basis the Spartans have ever allowed under Izzo. The previous high was 2016-17 when they allowed 68.7. So it wasn't like they were worse by a half point or a point. That's more than 2 full points per game. And how Michigan State's defense can try and bounce back after last season will be intriguing to me overall. So how MSU puts a team out there against what I think will be a pretty good Kansas defensive unit, Parrish, is my most intriguing thing, because I don't know who the guy is going to be. Reminder, Michigan State lost Josh Langford after a wonderful 9-year career there. Aaron Henry, Rocket Watts is now at Mississippi State. Tom Skithier's gone. Foster Lawyer's down at Davidson. So there's plenty of new faces here, but there are returning guys. Like, I want to see how good Gabe Brown can be. Joey Hauser, Marcus Bingham. Like, there are still familiar players on this Sparty roster. I'll get to my pick in just a minute on this game. But for me, in the first game, my biggest curiosity just happens to land on Sparty's side. And who's going to be the guy? Are we going to come away from this game with the Michigan State win saying, man, Tyson Walker looks like he's ready, or yeah, Max Christie right away. What if Max Christie winds up being the best freshman story on a night where we don't think that's really all that remotely possible because of who Duke has on its roster? So I'm intrigued with that, in addition to some other Kansas stuff. But what about you?
I want to see Max Christie. I want to see Tyson Walker. That's a pretty interesting 1-2-3. If that's going to be the 1-2-3, Walker, Christie, Gabe Brown. Gabe Brown averaged like 7 points a game last season, shot 42% from three on 3.2 attempts. You would think his role increases a little bit. And then Joey Hauser's the leading returning scorer, 9.7 points and 5.6 rebounds per game. So it's an interesting core for Michigan State to have. And you're right about the Spartans. They were not good relative to what they normally are defensively last season. They weren't good offensively either. I mean, if they got to bounce back on defense, they got to bounce back on offense too. They were 98th in offensive efficiency and 64th in defensive efficiency, according to KenPom. If you can take both of those numbers into account, that's the worst Michigan State has been in the KenPom era that dates back to 2002. They were 11th seed in the NCAA tournament. That 64 KenPom number is the worst of the Tom Izzo era. So I think sometimes we were so focused last season on Kentucky being unusually bad and Duke being unusually average. And then Michigan State made the NCAA tournament. So it was like, they're in the NCAA tournament. So like, good season, but it was not a good season. They were not really a good team, certainly relative to where Tom usually operates that program. So you make a good point. That second game is all about Duke and Kentucky trying to have bounce back seasons and Duke trying to do it in Coach K's final season. But Michigan State needs a bounce back season too. And Kansas, like you said, they weren't as good last season as they usually are either.
That's right. And Kansas will not, as a reminder, Kansas will not have Jalen Wilson in this game. He certainly figures to be one of the 3 most important players on that roster this season. He was suspended for drinking and driving, and so he will not play the first 3 games for the Jayhawks this season. So with no Jalen Wilson, perhaps the edge Kansas would have otherwise had isn't as big as some might think. But I don't know. We'll see. On the Kansas side, of course, Remy Martin comes over from Arizona State. He was the pick for preseason Big 12 Player of the Year. If you happen to be catching the podcast for the first time ever and are watching on video, or you just started to hop on, I mentioned last week, and I think I mentioned back when we had our Big 12 preview, I don't think that Remy Martin will wind up being Kansas's best player or most important player. I do think that will be Ochai Agbaji. Who he's assigned to defensively tomorrow night, I think will be plenty intriguing. So keep an eye on that. And then David McCormick down low, like a guy who made our top 101 players list with plenty of room to spare. And, how does Marcus Bingham go up against him? McCormick's a bigger body, more physical, but first game of the season, first night of the season. Can't wait for this. I'm just so excited. And part of that is, okay, how have the players that we know that we've seen for a year or two or three, how have they gotten better, stronger, advanced their games, or have they? Surprises wait in store there. I do like Kansas's edge physically on the defensive end, I think, here, but no Jalen Wilson. We had to make our picks here, obviously, and for the site and all that. And GP is going to tee that up in just a second here. But no Wilson made me think a little bit more about how I would have gone with the game definitively, because not having him, I think Kansas can overcome it, but it's a significant player, potentially an all Big 12 league kind of guy who's not going to be available on Tuesday at MSG.
I would have probably gone Kansas, by 6, 7, 8 points, if everybody were available, but they're obviously not. Jalen Wilson, he was their third leading scorer, leading rebounder last season. He was second in the Big 12 in double doubles. He's an important player. To not have him matters. I still think Kansas wins the game. I guess if we're picking it, I'd go Kansas 70, Michigan State 68. So that's a Kansas victory, but a Michigan State cover for me.
Okay. This is, by the way, this is the second time since Michigan State is not ranked. Only the first Champions Classic in 2011. And this one will have a game in which there is an unranked team. Otherwise, all the other ones, all 4 teams were ranked. It's somewhere in the poll between 1 and 25 heading into the season. They were all ranked. Michigan State is not. So that streak ends there. I am going to go Kansas to win. And I'm going to lean on the defense here, GP. I'm going to go 71-65. All right. So I'm going to take KU to win and to cover, and Kansas to show well defensively. That's my lean here. By the way, Champions Classic records. Kansas entering this is 5-5. Michigan State has the worst at 4-6. Kansas and Kentucky are both 5-5. Michigan State's 4-6 all time. Duke is 6-4. And in terms of heads up, Kansas is 1-2 in the Champions Classic, which means MSU is 2-1 versus Kansas. So KU looking to even the series in this event. But yeah, give me, even with no Wilson, give me Kansas. Not exactly going out on a ledge here. They're highly ranked. MSU is not in the AP top 25 as we head into this game. But when you bring back the likes of McCormick and Abaji, and I give me the over-under on Remy Martin's field goal percentage from the game at 41.5, and I'll take the over, saying it'll be like 42%. That will be a big factor here, I think, for sure. But I think this will be a little bit bumpy, a little bit up and down, but I'll take Kansas to win with a little bit of comfort in the end.
So I picked Kansas. Norlander picked Kansas. Congratulations to Michigan State on starting the season 1-0. That's almost definitely how that's going to go. So the more high-profile game of the Champions Classic, it's clearly the nightcap. It's Duke, Kentucky. We will talk about that next. But first, check this out. So the second game of the Champions Classic is the more high profile of the two. It's Duke, Kentucky. It's Coach K versus Coach Cal, and Coach K's first game of his final season. The Blue Devils are listed as 1-point favorites in this game. Deadleg, are you ready for the first game of Mike Krzyzewski's final season? Did you hear? It's Mike Krzyzewski's final season.
I did hear that. Are you ready for a trivia time?
Of course I am. I'm always ready. Look at me.
Okay. You ready for this one? Ignata's got it all fired up. Look at this on the screen and everything. This is production synergy. Okay.
I don't understand why no other college basketball podcast thought about going on video before us.
Their problem, not ours. You know what I'm saying, man? All right. Kentucky and Duke are both ranked in the top 10 heading into this matchup. All right. On Tuesday night, the Kansas-Michigan State game will be the 21st all-time Champions Classic tilt, and Kentucky-Duke will be the 22nd. So there have been 22 matchups in Champions Classic history. How many of those 22 matchups have featured games between top 10 teams? Kentucky-Duke is the most recent one, which will go down Tuesday night.
I ask you where Manhattanville is, and you come up with 21 of 22.
You know that the answer is at least 1 and at most 21. You get one guess. And by the way, if you're playing along at home, feel free to venture a guess.
Repeat the question.
There have been.
They always doing the spelling bee.
Exactly. You're trying to buy some time. Tuesday night will be the.
Here's my hands. I'm not cheating. Here's my little hands.
Exactly. Tuesday night will be the 21st and 22nd matchups in the history of the Champions Classic.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those 22, including Tuesday night, which will be Kentucky and Duke in the top 10, have featured both teams in the top 10 when they've played? Top 10 matchup.
I got you. Okay. I'm going to say 12.
You're pretty close. The answer is 14. Now, how about that? Okay. Now, I understand these are blue blood programs, GP, but 14 out of 22 of these things have had both teams in the top 10 when they've played. You want to know why this is the no-brainer event that's going to get renewed every year, be played at the biggest venues, and help open the season? It's because of that. It's an anomaly that Michigan State isn't ranked. Normally, all 4 teams have been ranked number 1 in the country at least once when we've had this over the years. So they've rotated in as to who's the top dog when they enter in. And more times than not, one of these games is between 2 top 10 teams. And on multiple occasions, it's between both in the top 10. You'll recall 2 years ago when they were 1, 2, 3, and 4. The top 4 teams was the first time that ever happened in 2019-20, before we knew we were just barreling toward the dumbest pandemic of our lifetime.
What a ridiculous pandemic. I was trying to think earlier today. I was like, did they even have the Champions Classic last season?
Yeah,
I know, but it's the only one I've never been to. I think that's true.
I think that is true. I think you're correct about that. But last year, obviously not on neutral floors, and you had them in home venues last season, where Michigan State won at Duke, and I can't even remember how about this? I can't even remember the Kansas Kentucky. Oh no, I do. That was neutral, Indianapolis, and it was a horrendous game. Remember how ugly that was? You probably don't. I should remember. I shouldn't ask you if you remember things.
I don't remember either.
But I do now as I'm saying it. It was like, I want to say the teams combined to shoot like 35% from the field. It was horrific. But I remember the Duke one because they looked terrible and Michigan State wound up winning.
You concerned at all that Kentucky just got through struggling with Miles College? They only won that game 80-71. It was and this wasn't like Miles College made a run to cut it to single digits late. Like, it was a competitive game all game. Does that bother you at all, or just an exhibition? Who cares?
Well, a couple things on that. First of all, was I watching this exhibition? There's a 0% chance. I'm not watching. Exhibitions usually mean nothing, but apparently Miles College hit like its first like 8 3-pointers or something like that. So they were absurd, starting hot from the field. And it tends to happen. Teams that go play in rough, they usually just light it up from beyond the 3-point arc. Kind of weird how that happens. But the 80-71 win is the only time that Kentucky has won by fewer than 20 points in an exhibition game under John Calipari. So if you want to just, gently flare any sort of panic light, then maybe that's why. I don't really have a lot of concern with it, obviously, but it is something. Kentucky's coming off a 9-win season, and it squeaked out. I guess if you want to call it squeaked out, they won by 9 over Miles. I don't have a ton of concern. I'll give you a little backdrop between these two schools here before we make our predictions. This is the 23rd all-time meeting between these two. Kentucky leads the series 12-10. But Duke has actually won 8 of the past 10 tilts, but that goes all the way back to 1979. How about this? It's the first time these two teams, this is somewhat surprising. This is the first time both these teams are playing at Madison Square Garden when playing against each other. Kentucky versus Duke at MSG has never happened until Tuesday night. The last time these two teams met, 2018, that was in Indianapolis. Duke's 118-84 win announced the arrival and the dominant arrival of Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, who could ever forget him, and company. And it was the worst loss statistically by margin in John Calipari's coaching career. Mike Krzyzewski is 6-2 all time against Kentucky. And Duke has opened the season 3 times in its history against UK. All 3 were Duke wins. The first one was an 82-76 overtime win in 1979. GP was 8 years old then. I wasn't born. That was in Springfield, Massachusetts, the Tip-Off Classic. They played again to open the 88-89 season. 80-55, Duke pasted Kentucky, which at that point was in the throes of a major NCAA investigation. That was also the Tip-Off Classic in Springfield, Massachusetts. You have any memory, before I get to the last, you have any memory of a Tip-Off Classic starting the college basketball season for like 20 years?
By the way, I was 2 years old in 1979. 2. I barely have memories of the Champions Classics. All right. I barely have Champion Classic memories. I don't need you quizzing me about Tip-Off Classic memories.
It's not even a quiz. I'd never heard of this thing as being a thing. Tip-Off Classic, Springfield, Massachusetts. Are we bringing it back? Apparently not.
But I have covered a game in Springfield, Massachusetts for some reason or another. I think that's maybe Hall of Fame Classic.
It was probably used to be there. Now it's at the Mohegan Sun. I'll be there next week for a sweet doubleheader. The third one, 118-84, Duke and 18. So this is the 4th time these two teams will have met to open the season. Duke is 3-0. This will be Coach K's final game at the Garden.
Final season.
You heard it here first. First college basketball podcast on video. Never forget that. Mike Krzyzewski's final season at
What,
Duke.
what if I just start like actually like with a straight face, constantly reminding people like, and do you guys realize this is Mike? You know, a lot of people are not talking about. I don't know if everybody understands yet, but this is Mike Krzyzewski's final season at Duke.
The people that love us will love it, and the people that don't get the show will threaten to unsubscribe to our YouTube channel. That's, I think, how that's going to go. K is 33-11 all time with Duke at MSG. That includes neutral, the occasional roadie against St. John's he's had over the years. And Tuesday night will be his 1,400th game, 1,400 as a head coach. So barring Duke going to the Final Four of the NIT this season, I guess anything's on the table. This will be the final time he coaches in MSG. Let me twist it back on you here. What interests you most, aside from the fact that it's Coach K's first game of his final season, when it comes to the game itself, be it Kentucky side, Duke side, whatever, there's no shortage of interesting storylines here. To you, what pops out to you most? What are you most interested to see or learn or come to be when we get there Tuesday night at MSG?
The first game for Paulo Banchero. I mean, I know Chet Holmgren was the number one prospect in the class, and I know some people think Chet Holmgren will be the number one pick in the draft, and he might be. I would bet on Paulo. And so I think there's a chance on Tuesday night, you and I are sitting inside the Garden and we're watching the best player in college basketball. Even though I voted for Drew Timme as preseason player of the year, I think there's a chance Paulo will be the best player in college basketball. By the way, did you see him in their exhibition? Duke only played one exhibition. Kentucky played two. He had 21 points, 9 rebounds in 20 minutes. 21 points in 20 minutes. It's 8 of 13 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. And, it should be noted, A.J. Griffin played in that exhibition. You know, he had missed a lot of the preseason with a right knee injury. Came off the bench. He got 10 points in 17 minutes. So, assuming there's been no setback since then, he will be in this game. And a few weeks ago, there were some questions about whether he would be available for this game. So seeing those 2 5-star freshmen for Duke, but mostly Paulo, I think is the most interesting thing. Like, I won't be surprised if we are late Tuesday podcasting about one of the great Duke debuts in Duke, in college, in history, in a Duke win where Paulo goes for 30 and 14. I mean, that's not crazy to me. So interested in that. And you know what? Like, I know Kentucky struggled with Miles College the other night, but one of the things Kentucky did do well is shoot the ball from 3. They were 11 of 19 from 3. And this is something we've talked about as John remade this roster this past offseason. Last season, Kentucky had lots of issues, but 2 obvious ones. They had no quality point guards, couldn't take care of the ball, and they didn't have enough shooting. So they could not shoot at all. And when you add Ty Washington, Severe Wheeler, Kellen Grady, CJ Federer, what you add is ball handling and shooting. And so the other night they started Ty Washington, Severe Wheeler, Kellen Grady, Keon Brooks, Oscar Shibwe. So you go from having no quality league guards last season. Now you got 2 in your starting lineup. You've got a shooter in Kellen Grady. Ty can also shoot it. And if you go look at the numbers from the UK starters, in the first exhibition against Kentucky Wesleyan, they were 9 of 15 from 3, the starters. And the same starters, the same 5 started both games. So that's who you're going to see Tuesday night. They were 9 of 15 from 3 against Kentucky Wesleyan, 8 of 12 from 3 against Miles College. So in the 2 exhibitions, Kentucky starters are 17 of 27 from 3. That's 63%. That is super encouraging if you're a Kentucky fan, and it underlines what we had talked about this entire offseason. You know, I can't promise you Kentucky is going to be a legitimate Final Four contender, but I think they're going to be. And the main reason is going to be because they resolved 2 major problems from last season. They've added multiple quality point guards that will play together, not unlike John Wall, Eric Bledsoe, and they have added enough shooting to where I think this can be a high level, I think they can go from being one of the worst high major 3-point shooting teams in the country to maybe one of the better ones.
That if they can do that, then they're going to prove their value preseason with that number 10 next to the name. And if Kentucky can be a top 25 3-point team accuracy wise, then yeah, going to going to change the course. It's going to be a different experience for UK fans, for Big Blue Nation, undeniably. I'm eager to see what we get on the big stage Tuesday night. I kind of get the feeling with both of these games that might be a little bit of nerves, some ricketiness overall, because remember, we are returning now. While some of these players did play in front of the fans last season here and there, right? Like it wasn't like they were every single game was no fans in the building. That's not what it was. The energy in the Garden on Tuesday is going to be different from anything that any of these players experienced last season. Not even going to be close. And so because of that, I actually think I'll just go on. I'll say no team is going to shoot better than 50% from the floor, and no team is going to shoot better than 35% from three-point range. I think it's going to be a night where the defenses play better than the offenses, which is not all that uncommon when you talk about season opening performances and you've got two power conference teams playing against each other. So that's what I think we're going to see here. I'm interested to see if Banchero is going to wind up being first game, huge arrival, like what you said, or if we get Duke's other big of note. Well, they've got three bigs of note. They've got Theo John from Marquette, who will probably be third in the pecking order behind Banchero, and then Mark Williams, who's a sophomore center, 7 feet tall, 7'7" wingspan, a guy we have, rated top 60, top 65 in the country overall players. I don't know. We'll see. Kentucky's got Oscar Tshiebwe, and how they deploy him defensively, and he's a grown man now. How he matches up with either of those guys. See, Banchero can step out. He can shoot from three. He can handle. He can distribute. I tend to believe that you're going to have Tshiebwe on Williams more, but how often both those guys are on the floor as well, because they can play both of them, because Banchero is that dynamic of a player there. I'm extremely intrigued to see what these Blue Devils can do against Kentucky, and a Kentucky team that I think will also be improved defensively, because they got a lot of veterans. With UK specifically, almost every single season, it's okay. We start anew. Here comes 4 to 6 new faces, most of them being freshmen. The occasional transfer will come in. Obviously, we've seen grad transfers. Reed Travis being one recent example where he was a pretty good fit overall. This year with Kentucky, with everything GP laid out, it's all like, how are these older guys going to fit together? And then it wouldn't surprise me if we're talking about this late Tuesday night after the game's done, win or lose with Kentucky. It's like, all right, we saw some good stuff here and there, like Kellen Grady, okay, 11 points. Davion Mintz still seems like he's got it. Keon Brooks, we like what he's seeing. It's not even a question. Ty Washington is Kentucky's best player. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. We didn't reflect that in our preseason top 101 players list, but the reports out of Lexington and how good he's looked and how ready he is, how poised of a player he is, it's been very good news to this point. So I'm intrigued to see how Ty Washington shows up. And how he goes up against a Duke backcourt, which is not shy on talent, but how Duke rolls out its lineups as well. It's going to be very fun. I find this game to be highly unpredictable, to be honest with you. I don't think there's really any outcome that could stun me beyond a team winning by more than, say, 18 or 20 points. Anything within that realm, Duke by 15, Kentucky by 16. I just think it's all on the table given how many new pieces are here and how poor these teams were a season ago.
I don't think this game is hard to predict at all. Watch, I'm going to predict it so easily.
No, you can predict it easily. Go ahead and predict it accurately, and then tell me how hard it is.
Yeah, I didn't say I could predict it accurately. I just said I could offer a prediction very easily, like in my sleep. Duke 71, Kentucky 69.
Nice. What's the line here? Do you have the line?
Of course I do. It's Duke -1.
That is the actual line. Okay. Because that's the KenPom projection as well. So I didn't check the lines before we got rolling here. Duke -1.
Well, so because I wanted to prep for our first YouTube show.
Did you not hear the trivia time I had locked and loaded for you? Did you not hear the history of Kentucky and Duke that I had locked and loaded? You think I didn't prep? Did I know the lines? Hell no. But did I prep? You better believe it.
Your trivia times have too many numbers in them.
I'm twisting you around, aren't I?
Yeah, it's like, there's been 21 and 22 and then 17 and 4. I'm like, what?
You're like, where's Manhattan located?
Yeah, I'm like, where is Manhattanville? And you've got a geometry problem for me. Jesus Lord.
Duke is 1-2 against Kentucky. Here's some more prep for you. Duke is 1-2 against Kentucky in the Champions Classic, which means Kentucky is 2-1 against Duke in the Champions Classic. Just
might need to double check that. Might need to double check that.
You go ahead and double check it. My prediction here, I'm going to go with the upset. Straight up. By the way, Nada wants us to let everyone know. You want to follow Ion College Basketball Podcast on Twitter. He will be live tweeting from the Champions Classic, both games from that account. And if you'll notice that the Ion College Basketball Podcast Twitter feed is going to sort of come to life, well, it's because it's been taken out of Parrish's. It's been taken out of his sweet hands.
Thank God.
Yes.
When I first started that account, I was like, you know what? I'll have some fun with this and build it up. And I was like, I don't have time.
One tweet later, and that died.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I don't have time for this. I'd rather get a TikTok.
Would you?
No, I don't.
How about you start a TikTok before this game tips Tuesday night and get it rolling? Let's see how we can go with that.
I don't mess around with TikTok, and I don't really mess around with Instagram. Although I do like watching Instagram reels. I like those. I like the Big Bank Challenge. Are you familiar with the Big Bank?
Not
Challenge?
Even close. No.
You don't know the Big Bank Challenge?
No.
So there's this song, and it goes, I got a small waist, pretty face, and a big bank. All right. So what the girls do is they go, they look into their little cameras and they go, I got a small waist, and they show their little small waist. It's like, you do have a small waist. And then they go, I got a pretty face, and they're like, pretty face. And, they show their face. And then it's like big bank. And then they jump, turn around, and then their bank bounces.
That's what you want to do on Instagram?
No, but here's the thing. I promise you, I'm not just a creep watching these for creepy reasons. I immediately go into the comments. The comments are hilarious because it'll be like it might be a perfect big challenge. Small waist, pretty face, and a legitimate big bank. And the comments will be like, I want to make a deposit in that bank. It's outrageous, okay? But then sometimes somebody gets on there with a big bank and they don't really got a big bank. They're claiming a big bank, but it's not. And you go into the comments there and they're like, that bank closed. You bankrupt.
Yeah.
You bankrupt. That's not a big bank. It's an ATM. I love the comments. They make me laugh, like for real. LOL. Big Bank Challenge, the best thing on Instagram. I think it's dying though. I think I got there toward the end. But when I see them, I still watch them. And then if I know somebody's not actually operate with a big bank, those are my favorite comments because that person gets destroyed and then probably, loses her self-esteem.
All right. Well, I'm going to go Kentucky 73, Duke 67. So that's a straight up upset.
Oh, wow.
Big time. Yeah, I'll go with UK to win this one. This is obviously just a complete dart throw. And again, defenses win out there, but I think Kentucky will play well from beyond the perimeter, and that'll be a big time factor there. And I do think that Oscar Tshiebwe is going to have a really good night, and that's going to make an impact on how overall the impact of Banchero and potentially Williams will have. So we agreed on the first game in terms of overall winner, but I'm glad this is happening. We have disagreed on this game. By the way, we have to get a tally going. We haven't started our weekend picks and all that stuff, but we got to get that going as well. So that'll be another thing. Well, I'll deal with that issue once we get to the weekend picks because we still haven't resolved.
Do these count? Do these count as official picks?
I think that they should because the games are so high profile.
Okay, and then Nada can keep track of who's right against the spread.
Yes, against the spread. Yes.
So we both took.
We disagree against the spread on both games.
Okay. Well, I
like it.
This is getting off to an interesting start.
Not in the chat. Yes, they count, he says.
Got a small waist, pretty face, and a big bank.
Nana hit me up before the podcast. Listen, new producer, he said he had a trivia time. So I assume it's tied to the Champions Classic. Now, this is a territory we have never ventured into before. I don't know the answer. I don't even know the question, and neither do you. So, Nada, if you got it and you want to drop it in right here, the floor is actually, we're about to have a non-Sam Vecini. He says not today. Oh, okay. Not ready. Yeah. Not ready for it. Not ready for it. We're going to tease the Nada stuff eventually, but that is Champions Classic there. What else you got, GP?
Well, before we get out of here, there have been some interesting sort of just news and notes from the past few days. So if you want to pop through them, have at it.
Yeah, let's do it. This is a little bit of a roundup, if you will. And I want your quick thought on this because this has been something that's been in the college football realm, but not to put it on our doc. we haven't talked about it, and I don't know if we ever will get a chance to unless, well, JMU might be good this year. He noted the fact that James Madison can't compete for a conference championship because the school is going to leave the CAA, and so the CAA has voted to punish these players. If this had come out in the middle of February when the season was going on from a basketball standpoint, if JMU winds up being the best team in the league, then obviously we damn near might have put this at the top of a podcast. But since Nada brought it up, this really is one of the more outrageous things, right, Parrish? I understand it's JMU, it's mid-major, so it doesn't get a ton of run, but this is completely absurd. We want to talk about screwing over the kids. If you missed the story, the school is leaving the CAA to join the Sun Belt for football reasons, but because of this, every single JMU athlete is not being allowed to compete for a conference championship, be it football, field hockey, soccer, across the board. Unless this gets reversed, this is actually going to wind up being a thing, which to me is just the height of pettiness, and it's a horrendous look for the CAA.
This is one where I think everybody's got the same opinion because it's crazy to have any other opinion. This is reprehensible. I'm actually going to James Madison next month. I'm doing sideline on a Virginia James Madison game for CBS Sports Network. And so they've been on my radar just a little bit, and it's incredible that adults would do this to these young people. I mean, imagine, and they are going to do it, and it will hold up. This isn't one they're threatening, and then they've done this before. Imagine if the Big 12 said Texas can't compete for a championship this season, and it wouldn't be as bad because Texas could get an automatic bid of the NCAA tournament. James Madison has no automatic bid. I mean, it has no because Texas could get an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. James Madison cannot get an at-large bid. The only path to the NCAA tournament is an automatic, and now the CAA has said that you can't get that. No chance. It's just wrong. And I don't want to say they're getting away with it because it has been a public relations ping. Dan Wolken at USA Today wrote a column about it. Others have as well. But yeah, it's just I understand feelings getting hurt and businesses being damaged by conference realignment. I get that. That's a real thing. But at some point, there's not a single player on any James Madison team that had anything to do with this. And that is really who you're punishing.
Agreed. Just horrendous. Terrible stuff. More terrible stuff. All right. A few little roundup headlines. Seattle coach Jim Hayford is on administrative leave. Stadium first reported, the school subsequently confirmed that he's on leave. Now, the report is allegations that he used a racial slur during the team's scrimmage last week. He did it within the context of one of his players, a black player, said the N-word, and then Jim Hayford then asked him if he said it and actually said the word. This apparently had also happened over the summer, reportedly. So it was the second time he did this. Quite obviously, you can't do this. It is mind-blowing. So he is on leave. Associate head coach Chris Victor is the acting head coach as the school's investigation takes place. There's no one knows how long this investigation is going to take place and if Hayford's ever going to return to the bench. But certainly, where the hell do you go with that? He's on leave, deserving to say you can't say that. I mean, come on.
You don't get on administrative leave or suspension and get your job back unless you're Will Wade.
That's pretty much how it goes in college athletics, yes.
That is basically how it goes. Will Wade's the only one that bounces back from a suspension. I'll never understand this. Robert Sarver, the Phoenix Suns owner, might have to end up selling his team for a lot of things, but among them, this exact thing. Why can Draymond Green say the N-word, but I can't say, and he actually said it.
I mean, what?
Here's the thing. If you were smart enough to understand why you can't say it, awesome. We're on the same page. And if for some reason you're a white guy and you genuinely don't understand why you can't say that word, if Draymond Green says that word or one of your players at Seattle says that word, even if you genuinely don't understand, just don't do it because it'll get you in trouble. Even if you just say, hey, I don't know why I can't say it, but I can't. And you'll be able to keep your job.
Yeah, mind blowing. Elsewhere, Terrence Shannon Jr., Texas Tech. He's going to be out for an undetermined amount of time because the school announced on Sunday he went through the draft process and withdrew and came back. But here's the quote: "Out of an abundance of caution, Texas Tech is withholding Shannon from competition to ensure there are no possible issues resulting from that process and that all NCAA rules were followed. Shannon will not compete until this review process is completed." End quote. We don't know when that's going to resolve itself. Kofi Coburn of Illinois will not play the first 3 games of the season because of some stuff kind of tied to that, but not really. So we wait and see on that. They're clearly going through it. I was kind of wondering, Parrish, if we were going to have something like this. Like, not that many players that are really awesome college players could have gone to the NBA, wind up coming back, but there's always a handful. And sure enough, I don't know if you have any thoughts on it, but just a quick headline there. That the fact they don't have him to start, he's their best player. So that's certainly notable.
I'm just confused by the whole thing. I mean, Texas Tech's going to have to sit out a player for possible violations. So they're having to take a wait and see approach here. They can't just rush him out there on opening night. And Illinois, Kofi Coburn's going to have to miss 3 games for, selling something, profiting in a way that was not allowed at the time. And this is just wild to me because Memphis fans told me this only happens to Memphis. Okay. They're the only ones that have to sit out players at the beginning of the season. That's why they were so defiant 2 years ago with James Wiseman, because this doesn't happen anywhere else, even though it happened at Kansas with Billy Preston and Kentucky with Enes Kanter, and I could go on for hours. And so here we are again. Boy, I bet you the University of Memphis wishes it had the people who were running Texas Tech running it 2 years ago so that somebody could have stepped in and said, we don't need to play James Wiseman. This is idiotic, because now they're staring down the barrel of an IARP case, but we can talk about that another day.
Texas Tech opens with 3 home games against North Florida, Grambling State, and Prairie View A&M. They will not be missing Terrence Shannon Jr. And then after that, they've got Incarnate Word on South Padre Island for an MTE. So they've got some time to figure this out as Mark Adams begins his tenure with the Red Raiders. There are 3 opening night games to know about that aren't the Champions Classic. Louisiana Tech plays at Alabama. This actually has a slight whiff of upset potential. Crimson Tide are going to play what might be the best team in CUSA. Louisiana Tech, Kenneth Lofton Jr. is just so much fun to watch. One of the best major players in college basketball, as far as I'm concerned. I do have Alabama winning the SEC. I have Alabama winning this game. Keep an eye on that one. And the other 2 are mid-major specials. They feature 4 teams that have objectively good chances to get into the NCAA tournament. So if you're a mid-major honk and for whatever reason you would be counterculture enough to say, I'm not watching the Champions Classic, you're insane. But if you're following and trying to track along, going multi-screen, totally get you. Belmont plays at Ohio. That's one of the best mid-major games we could see all season. Belmont, in my opinion, is the third best mid-major team in the country this season. Ohio, I have as the second best team in the MAC, but it's kind of right there with Buffalo. Ohio, of course, made the NCAAs last season and beat Virginia in the first round. And the other one could be a battle of 2 future 13 seeds. UC Irvine, probably the best team in the Big West, is going to play at New Mexico State. That's the best team in the WAC. So just keep an eye out for that. And I got one more thing for you, Parrish. And this is also for the listeners here. I want to give a shout to Mike Hall because he reminded me of this just before we started podcasting. I saw his tweets there. There are rule changes to be aware of this season in college basketball. So like when you're actually watching the game, there's a few things material-wise that will look different. You know how when you watch an NBA game, the shot clock will have tenths of a second displaying? That's now a thing in college basketball. Now, not every team has to do it. If you have the technology and frankly the budget to do it, you can. So when we watch the Champions Classic on Tuesday night, since they'll be at a pro arena that has the tech to do it, the shot clock, once it gets to 5 seconds and less, it will display tenths, which I guess can mean something really when you get down to touching a ball or not and using the end of the possession, et cetera, et cetera. How about this? Undershirts. I feel like you're going to agree with this one. Undershirts have to be the same color as the jersey now. You wear a dark blue jersey, you got to wear a dark blue shirt. Can't wear a white shirt. You good with that?
Yeah, I think that's sensible to me. The whole point of having colored uniforms is so that you can distinguish clearly between the 2. So, yeah, let's keep the undershirts the same color as the uniform. I've literally never thought about that before, but now that I am thinking about it for the first time and doing it on YouTube, I think it makes sense. Sure.
One has to do with the shot clock setting back to 20 instead of 30 about a ball tipped out of bounds. No one cares about that. How about this one? On a double technical foul, if the penalties are the same on each team, instead of teams shooting free throws, the technicals cancel out. So teams don't get the opportunity to shoot foul shots, and instead it becomes a dead ball foul. Do you like that? I feel like if it's a double technical, each team should get the foul shot, but now that's going away.
Fewer foul shots, the better. I'm fine with that.
Point to Parrish. You're definitely right about that. Another one, replay review can be used in the last 2 minutes of the second half or last 2 minutes of any overtime and regulation to determine which team knocked the ball out of bounds or if a player stepped out, but only after the call was made. You can't go to the monitor if it wasn't made. This is one of those things where, like, if you're listening, you're like, wait, what is he saying? I guarantee you this will be a huge thing when we get to February, March. Replay review can be used in the last 2 minutes of the second half or any overtime to determine which team knocked a ball out of bounds or if a player stepped out, but only if the call was made. So if you step out and it's called that you're out, it gets to be reviewed. If you step out and it's not called, you don't get to do it. Are you good with that? Again, review can be a plague on the sport in all sports. Does this sit okay with you?
Yeah, because I don't know a great way to do it differently. Let's just play through this. Guy steps out of bounds. And it looks like he's out of bounds, but there's no whistle. So we just keep playing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then misses a shot, and then we rebound. We go back the other way. Misses a shot. Rebound. We go back the other way. Makes a shot. Now we've got a foul. We're gonna go back and replay and then erase everything that happened in that 90-second sequence. How would you even do that?
It can be a huge headache. The ever lasting tug of war between how much review we should and shouldn't have. I am drifting more toward just no review at all because it truly is toothpaste you can't put back in the tube kind of deal there.
The other thing that would be wild, like, would this be allowed under that hypothetical? Guy goes to save a ball out of bounds. Looks like he saves it, but in reality, he stepped on the line. When he saved it, he threw it to the other team. Transition dunk. Can you challenge the call? I know you can't because this is not allowed, but if it were allowed, could you say, hey, we want to challenge that our guy was out of bounds, that our own guy was out of bounds when he saved that ball to prevent that transition opportunity from happening? It just gets too messy when you say, yes, the whistle's got to be blown. He was out of bounds. We don't think he was. Let's go look at it. Anything else? Let's just keep playing.
Couple more. Goaltending, if it's called, can be checked on monitor in the final 2 minutes of the second half or OT. It cannot be reviewed at any other time if it's called. So final 2 minutes of the game in OT, otherwise can't be challenged. I think I'm good with that, to be honest. That's fine. Let's keep going. Traveling is going to probably drive the college basketball hardcore nuts. There's only a couple more here. It's going to be called less often now because it's allowing for more freedom of movement, more Euro steps, step backs. So things that if you watch the NBA frequently and you're just accustomed to the best athletes in the world and best basketball players in the world doing stuff, and it's become kind of second nature to you, whereas you don't often see that kind of stuff in college basketball, just be aware there's going to be more interpretation and liberalism with traveling in college basketball this season, which, to be honest, it doesn't bother me a ton, I guess. I don't know. You with me on that? I mean, you watch so much NBA because of the Grizzlies. You're used to this stuff as well. But
yeah, it won't look weird to me. I watch the NBA basically every night. So yeah, I think anything that makes the college game. I know the NBA game is not perfect, but it is better. At least I think, like, and some of it's because they're like the best players in the world as opposed to, amateurs. But it's clearly a better game. And if we could borrow from it in certain spots, it's fine with me.
Two other things. One, that viewers will never really notice, but coaches are really excited about. You're going to be able to have like real-time stats and video allowed on the bench with technology. That just was never a thing until this year. And then something we'll talk about when we get closer to March. The NIT is going to experiment, and we did talk about this on a pod in the offseason with 6 fouls. We don't even get into the ways in it because it's not going to be a thing until we get to the end of the season. But the NIT is going to experiment with this idea that you can have 6 total fouls, but never more than 4 in a single half. There's a little more into that than just that. But that's a new one that will be just test it out once we get to the NIT. And that's it, man. Season is here. Parrish, I cannot wait to see you, man. I can't wait to see you. Tuesday, face-to-face. Here we go.
Can't wait.
Oh, gosh. Look at his face right now. Everyone watching on YouTube. Does this look like a guy who can't wait? Come on, man.
Can't wait to see you. I was just joking.
Season is here.
I didn't show proper excitement. I apologize. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to see you in New York again. I can't wait to see the Garden. I haven't seen the Garden in a while.
That's good. Come on now. That vibe, MSG, Tuesday night, packed arena. That's going to be really good. Really good. If this podcast was, if you're the kind of listener, kind of fan that really, you needed something like this to get the juices really flowing, we are here, one day away. And shouts to anyone, by the way, that watched this early Monday morning. A little surprise for you. We published it just after midnight East Coast time. Thanks for watching along. Again, you can subscribe to Ion College Basketball on YouTube. Go find Parrish on Twitter at Gary Parrish CBS. I believe he's going to tweet about it at least once. I've tweeted about it a few times. We will have a link there. Pod description, the top of it in this podcast episode. Go to it. You guys have been phenomenal. Get us above 500 subscribers by the time these games tip off on Tuesday. You would be wonderful for that. And continue, by the way. He's going to say this on the outro, but continue, by the way, to 5 stars. Nice comments. I'm excited for people to watch you read the shouts for the first time. I've been sitting through this for years.
Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Aaron Bruce, legend. Shouts to Larnell. Thank you guys once again for listening to the Ion College Basketball Podcast in the middle of the dumbest, it's the dumbest pandemic of my lifetime. You see this Aaron Rodgers guy? Woo! He's something, isn't he?
Packers lost. We love to see it.
Woo! That Aaron Rodgers is something else. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts. And please, like Deadleg said, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just type Ion College Basketball. There's a lot of ways to do it. Here's one. Go into the search engine YouTube. Just type Ion College Basketball. And I ain't promising you it's going to pop up. I don't understand how all that works. But just scroll until you see it. And then hit the bell button so you get alerts when the new video drops. Smash the like button because that's important too. I'm using all these verbs.
Hold on. I got the call to action here. Like, here's what you want to say. I cannot, with a straight face, you did it. I didn't know if you were going to do it. Smash that like button.
Smash it.
I can't pull it off.
Make love to that like button. With consent, of course. With consent. The like button has granted you consent. Now smash it.
What a debut. Oh my goodness.
What
a first episode.
The like button has granted consent. Now it's time to smash it. Please go do that. Help us get this thing off the ground. And we're going to talk to you again real soon. Right after Tuesday night's Champions Classic. Till then, take care.